friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you this really simple gatefold card that gives you the opportunity to show off some gorgeous new paper and a neat bundle called the Needle and Thread Bundle that's in the Occasions catalog coming out January 3rd, 2019. It has some beautiful hand-stitched embroidered flower images with some foliage and some neat fonts here, like a really neat typewriter-written font that's kind of trendy but yet really soft and delicate with this simple cursive writing. And I love some of the dies that are in here. Not only do they cut out all these images here, but they also have some that do embossing and impressing into your paper. So as you can see, this gorgeous needlepoint Nook paper has a plethora of colors in it. We, on this card, used Mossy Meadow, Berry Burst, Highland Heather, Balmy Blue, Crushed Curry, Flirty Flamingo. There's some Petal Pink down in there, and it looks like some little lemon lime twist there, Old Olive, Mossy Meadow. And on the card we're going to be making today, we're just going to change up a little bit of the colors to show you all the different ways you can make one of these cards, just changing out the colors. So let's take another little quick look here. You've got these embroidered hand-stitched images, and then on the back, of course, you just have these graphic small prints that coordinate really beautiful with the larger print on the other side. So to get started, to make a gatefold, you're just using a half sheet of your cardstock here. And you can see that I've been playing around with it here today. And you're going to be using an 8.5 by 5.5 sheet, a half sheet of your cardstock. I chose to use Night of Navy because it is a really pretty dark color that's in the paper that I'm going to use on this card. And so when you go to score a gatefold card, you can use your scoring tool or you could use your Stampin' trimmer. You'll put the 8.5 inch side into the top so it's up against the guide, and you go to 2 1/8 and you're going to score. Don't worry about all the measurements, they're always on the blog post for the card when I do a video. So 2 1/8 and you do a score. Then you can flip it around and put the 8.5 inch side again up at the top at the guide, and put your left side this time over to the 2 1/8 and score. Now sometimes when you do a gatefold card, you'll get a tiny little sliver showing through. So if you do have that problem, what I do is I just fold over my card, and then I'll just not score this side, and then I'll take the edge that's going to meet in the middle, I'll butt it up against the other one that's folded over already, and then I'll just take my bone folder and I will just do a nice crisp crease on that score line, and then I'm assured that these two pieces are butt up against each other. But you can also just score 2 1/8 in, 2 1/8 in, and then fold them over. But if you do find that depending on what scoring apparatus you're using, if you end up with a little sliver here, just fold it over and you'll have it butting up against it. So as you can see on this card, the inside, when you score it in 2 1/8, it gives you a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch space here. So that'll give you 4 inches by 5 1/4 to be the measurements for the inside where you write your message. And so what's really fun about this die here, this is one of those embossing dies. So what you're just going to do is take a 4 by 5 1/4, and then I just took this die and I just put it where I could get maximum viewing of that die, and then I just ran it through my Big Shot just as if I were using my cutting sandwich. And then whenever you bring it back out, it looks like this. Beautiful stitching here. It literally looks like I took my sewing machine and I stitched it on there. So then what we're going to do is go ahead and put that into the inside of our card, into that 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch space. Get a nice border the whole way around, and I really I put a lot of adhesive on here, so just want to get it as equal as I can. And then I've got that inside portion done. Now I'm going to work on the outside. And the outside has these panels. You'll notice these panels, the top and the bottom are adhered on the right side, and the middle one is on the left side. You could also switch that up and say the card you wanted to do it this way and have it open this way. Just whatever you do, the top and the bottom get adhered on the same side. It doesn't matter which side, but it has to be the same side. You could do it on the left side, you could do it on the right side. And then the middle one is always on the opposite side. So on this card, I liked having the sentiment on the right, so I built up my image, focal image over here on the left. So I needed to find out the measurements here. And of course, this is 4 1/4, so that meant I wanted a border to go into 4. So what I did is I did a piece of Poppy Parade, and that was a color that I thought was really prominent in this pretty paper here. And so it's 4 inches by 1 5/8. 4 inches by 1 5/8. And then I'm going to put adhesive only on the right side. And when I put it together, I'm going to just put 1/8 of an inch border on the left and right and on the top. And it's adhered on the right side. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to put on the bottom panel next, because then I can use the middle panel and I can gauge and center it better. So once again, I put adhesive on the right side, and then I put it down on the bottom, and I have the same border, 1/8 of an inch on both sides and on the bottom. And then I'm going to put the middle one in. And the middle one now I can use adhesive on the left side, and I can gauge better to center it. Okay, so once again, the Poppy Parade was 4 inches by 1 5/8. That meant my designer series paper is going to be 3 3/4 by 1 3/8, which is really nice because 1 3/8 is smaller than 1 1/2. So on a 12 by 12 piece of designer series paper, you can get 8 1/2 inches cut. When you're going 12 inches divided by 1 3/8 is 8. So you get a lot of these strips out of a 12 by 12 piece of designer series paper, so you can make a lot of cards. So I like that. And this measurement here being 3 3/4 is smaller than 4, which you get 3 times 8. So you're getting 24 strips. So you can make 8 cards out of one piece of 12 by 12. So that's a good bonus. So the next thing I did on this card is I made my sentiment over here on the right. Now when you go to do this, you're going to stamp the sentiment on a piece of Whisper White. Then you're going to take this really cool die, and this die has stitching on it that embosses into the paper. It doesn't cut, and you just put that over your image and roll it through your Big Shot using cutting plates, and then as we did on the inside, you've got that stitched impression into your paper. And yes, you're wondering, what is that? Well, your pretty label punch that's in the annual catalog. Remember, this punch went with the Flourish Filigree, that really pretty Happy Christmas Wishes that was in the Christmas catalog, and also the Label Me Pretty stamp set. So you're getting a lot of mileage out of this pretty label, because now you have another thing that coordinates with it. And then you just put the pretty label punch right around the stitching, pop it out, and now you've got a really cute label here to go onto your card. So what I'm going to do is put some adhesive on the back of that, and I'm going to put it onto the left side of the middle panel. And you just pop it right like that. And then what I did is I stamped this floral image here, this not floral, foliage image here in Old Olive, and then I die cut it with the really neat die cut here. And then I just placed it onto my card so that it didn't cover up the sentiment, and I glued it down, and then I used the stamps, the embroidered flower, the larger one and the smaller one, and I stamped them using my Stampin' spots. Now these ones came with my paper pumpkin, and I like them because they're smaller and they have a felt medium that the ink is on, and it makes it a little bit easier to use these distinctive stamps that are on the photopolymers and red rubber. So I did that in Flirty Flamingo, and then I just popped it inside the green leaves. And then I just stamped a small flower in the Balmy Blue, and I popped it up with a dimensional. And then this really cute little die here cuts out these flowers here, okay? And so I just cut out 3 crushed curry, and then I just put, this time I'm gonna stick the actually 2, I'm gonna put that crushed curry in there, and I'm going to put this little guy on the balmy blue again. So there we go. That way we're matching the 2 flowers here. On this one, I used the circle, but this one I'm gonna put the flower on there. So we've got those 2 there, and we've got the card essentially done. The next thing I did is I just used this really neat die that's going to become one of your new favorites because it can cut out a lot of sentiments from other stamps that you have. And I just die cut the Get Well Soon there, and I just popped it onto here, and then that gave me the opportunity to have all of this to write on because I can't really write here, so I put my sentiment over there. So that was really cool. So you can see how pretty all the different colors are in this paper. Looks like 2 totally different cards, and even just adding the different flowers on the centers of the card made it different. So, oh, I almost forgot to show you. We'll notice that these dies have a little arrow on here. So on this arrow, this flower here. Now this flower, when it's on the paper, is on here like this, okay? So if you line that flower up on the image that's stamped by the company on this acetate, you'll see that there's a little arrow here. Now they used to put a little blob of photopolymer or red rubber, but I think a lot of people were catching it with their ink, so now they just put it onto the actual acetate. So if you take that stamp off and you put it onto your block, and then you just take a Sharpie and you put an arrow, you'll know exactly how to stamp that. So then whenever you go to stamp it, you'll ink it up, you'll put your arrow, say, up in the corner, and then you'll remember to keep that paper that way. And when you come to put your die on, you just line up those arrows. And when you line up the arrows, you will know that you're going to not have to sit there and play with it. I know it's not a big deal, but once you do that, it actually is a big deal when you figure that out. So there you go, the needle and thread bundle that's coming out January 3rd, 2019. Make this really cute gatefold card, so simple to make, but what a wow, showing that gorgeous designer paper, the needlepoint nook, and all the pretty colors that are in there. So if you have any questions, you can go to my blog, cindyleebdesigns.com. You can always email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com or give me a call or a text at 724-323-2296. Thanks for buzzing by, friends. Happy New Year.